Good evening. I appreciate your patience, my brothers and sisters. Trying to work out some things on this end. Had a full day, and we wanted to make sure that our production is a production. I think you can see we have made some improvements and things are coming along smoothly. And so we thank you for your patience. For our uh, devotional scripture, we will read from the 20th chapter of the second book of the Bible, the book of Exodus, and we will read one verse. And that will be the 17th verse of the 20th chapter, which reads, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's." Let us pray. Eternal Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank thee for this another opportunity to be in the midst of the brethren. We pray your continued blessings upon each of us, upon our homes, our loved ones, upon Capitol View Baptist Church. And we particularly thank you for this production staff that is diligently working, endeavoring to manifest what thus saith the Lord. We pray, Lord God, as we go through this Christian Endeavor experience, as we endeavor to rightly divide your word, that all we say and do will be pleasing in your sight, and to the end that we will be proven workmen who needeth not to be ashamed for Christ's sake. Amen. Amen. All righty. Now, in the spirit of what we discussed last week, artificial intelligence was the subject matter. It comes under a wider or broader rubric of geoengineering or slash transhumanism. We are going to go forth this week looking at some other things involved with respect to changes that are being brought about or that some people are trying to bring about within or amongst humanity. There is the belief that God needs help. There's the belief that God didn't quite get it right. There's the belief that maybe God got it right, but God's been asleep. Sort of like when Elijah was battling the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, and their gods did not respond to their pleas for their gods to show up. And so Elijah said, shout louder, cut yourself a little more. They may be asleep, or he may be relieving himself, or maybe he's somewhere talking with his wife or something. Cut yourself some more, hit yourself in the head some more, do some more shouting. So maybe they think that our God is, God's creator somehow is off on a trip somewhere, and he's not being attentive to what's going on. And so they feel as though they need to give him some help. And so we're going to look at some more having to do with geoengineering and transhumanism, which is the understanding that man can make man better. Man can add some things and take some things away to improve upon mankind. Now, our objectives, we're going to look at hunger, obesity, and malnutrition worldwide, diet and disease worldwide, and the link between chemical, seed, and food production, distribution, and grocery store displays. All this is linked. And then we have the sides, the herbicides, the pesticides, the insecticides, there are a bunch of other sides there. And all this goes into the GMO foods. And then the human remains. You remember we talked about the human remains and so forth. may have been as much as a year ago we looked at that kind of thing. But we're looking at all of that tonight with hopefully the goal of, is your food killing you? I like that. Is your food killing you? Point being that the food has a lot to do with the changes that we are experiencing personally. And it has a lot to do with the changes that we are experiencing collectively. We, each one of us, needs to be more attentive to what we eat. Now, Jesus said it's not what goes in a man that matters, it's what comes out. And we're not veering from what Jesus said. But at the same time, in order to get some good stuff out of a man, we got to put some good nutrition in him to feed him so his brain and so forth can produce that good stuff, those good thoughts, that good speech, that good attitude. So here we go now. Let's see. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Do you think that leaves, anybody think that leaves, is anything left out of there? Is there anything that's not covered in that statement about what we ought not to covet? Can everybody unmute themselves if they want to? Everybody knows that they can unmute themselves. Okay. So I take it by your silence, you in agreement that pretty much covers everything that we could possibly cover. All right. So now, can somebody tell me why I raised the subject of covetousness within the context of what we eat? Nobody want to take a stab at it? What does to covet mean? Maybe that's what we need to do. Can we put the definition of covetousness on the screen? Can you Google to covet on the screen? Can you Google that in Chrome or somewhere and put that definition on the screen? Because I guess it would have been good if we had that there. And can they see that without sharing it, or you got to pull it up and then share it? Okay, all right. Well, he's working on pulling it up, and what's the word? C-O-V-E-T, to covet. So can they see it?
Yeah, but it looks like it's small.
But you got it. Is there any way you can just cut and paste and make that big so they can see it? Otherwise, I guess I just have you read it then. If you can't do it, don't worry about it. Just read it to them. Can everybody see that?
No.
Said no.
No, it looks very small.
Okay. Can you read it to them?
I don't think they're gonna be able to hear him.
Or they can't hear him?
No, I'll read it.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Sister
All right.
Lene Brown's gonna read it to you.
Covet means to yearn to possess or have something. For example, he covets time for exercise and fishing.
That's not a good definition of covet. See if you can find another one. Try to.
Oh, I got it.
Go ahead.
To desire what belongs to another.
Yeah, that's coveting. Desiring what belongs to another. Now, can anyone tell me how that's related to what we eat? Wow. Who's here besides Brother Thomas?
Some people in the way.
Andrew.
Nobody's got anything to say, huh? Well, What we eat most of the time has to do with our desire to have something somebody else has. And what is it that creates that desire? There's an entire industry, one of the most profitable industries in our country and our culture and our society, drives that desire. It creates that desire. What's the name of
FDA.
that industry?
The FDA.
Did you say FDA is in Food and Drug Administration?
Yes.
No, sir. Now, the FDA is a culprit in the process, but the FDA does not create the desire. I said there's
What?
an industry that creates the desire and that drives the desire.
What? Agriculture? What?
No, but it does begin with an A, though. It creates the desire to covet. What industry creates the desire to covet? We're confronted with it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's a nonstop industry. Advertising. Advertising drives us. We are a consuming nation. We are the richest nation on the earth because we are the largest consuming nation on the earth. And what are we consuming? What is the whole purpose? Let me put it this way. I shouldn't say what is the whole purpose. But what do you think one of the purposes is of this presentation? Since we're talking about consuming, what do you think I'm saying about consuming without me having just come out and said it so far? Since I say covetousness is a problem, what am I saying about consuming? They can't hear you.
That we shouldn't do.
Yeah, mine's gonna come.
Oh, hers going to come. Okay, she said that we should not do it. You're right. We should. What the advertising industry does, it creates a thirst, a hunger in us. It drives us every day to just consume, to covet stuff we don't need. We throw away more food than any country in the world. We have more junk than any country because we covet. Man, did you see that? You see them shoes Alexander had on the other day? Man, I got to give me some of them. Well, they don't make them in your size, but I got to get me some of them. Did you see that hat Hall had on the other day? Man, I got to get me one of them hats, man. But your head too big. They don't make them in your size, but I got to get it anyway. I just set it on the shelf, you know. We covet. That's why when you go to the grocery store, every grocery store you go into, except the ones who've been whipped by the women, by the mamas, every grocery store you go into has the cashier's line lined up with soda, chips, and candy. Because they know them children are going to wear you out from the time you hit that lane until the time you finish paying your bill. You're going to buy some candy or soda or something. It's built into us. Covetousness. We talk about, oh, we got to get rid of the guns. We got to get rid of the drugs. No, get rid of covetousness. What drives the guns, what drives the drugs is our drive to have what we don't need, to have what we see somebody else have. That's ungodly. It's abominable. Oh, we buy food. Throw it aside. Get some for lunch. Throw it aside. We go past the store. Let me go on there and take a look at that. Wear it one time, maybe two times. Come on. That's covered. We are the largest consuming nation in the world. And yet we are among the sickest people in the world. We spend more money on medicine, on health care than any nation in the world. But we have just about the worst health care. We have the worst healthcare system among the developing nations, and we have one of the worst healthcare systems in the world. We are just consumers. We are just what's that term they use? They call some kind of eater. We're just eaters. We're just consumers. We are here because China and Japan and now even India, everybody is making money off of us. We just keep buying and buying, and the more we buy, the higher the price of the stock goes up. The more we buy, the less nutritious the food is that we eat, the sicker we get. And so not only do they have us buying food that we don't need, food that lacks nutrition, but they have us, they have our body parts now on the market to sell for meat or to sell for a transplant. So covetousness, it's ungodly, and it's a problem in India. Can you believe, or does anybody know? And it may be somewhere in the slides. I don't know. I hope I'm not jumping ahead. I am jumping ahead. Okay, I'm gonna leave that alone. I was told I'm jumping ahead. I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay, all right. I'm gonna leave that alone. We're gonna move right along because people take time to prepare slides, and I ought not to be messing with them. Okay, all right. So now, Eve was engaged in covetousness, trying to help you put it in perspective. And that same attitude, that same curiosity, that same desire to have something that we're told we can't have is what drives us today. Oh, if you want to get somebody to buy something, if you want to get somebody, you want to get a black guy to go after a white woman or a white woman to go after a black guy, just tell them they can't have them, and they'll go after them. If you want to drive your son or daughter to somebody, just tell them they can't have that person. And then just to spite you, they're going to try to go out with that person every day of the week. That's just the way humans are. God told Adam and Eve they couldn't eat the fruit. What did Eve do? Eve said she took one look at the devil. She took one look at the fruit and said, it looks good to me, smells good. It tastes good. I'm going to go ahead and eat me some of this here. And so they got hooked. And that's what happens to us. We get hooked on the idea, just the idea of having something. Lord knows if it tastes good, if it feels good, and it looks good, then we really hook. But we spend a lot of time, money, and energy and effort on things that don't feel good, on things that don't taste good, things that hurt us. We'll engage in an activity. We got a prime. So who can give me a prime example of an activity that has been recently engaged in that kill people? But you got some people that'll go right back out tomorrow and do the same thing because they're just fascinated about doing something. The fact that they could do something nobody else did. Somebody tell me what was in the news recently. The submarine. You had these rich people in something that my grandkids would put together. Do you realize how idiotic that is? But the drive to be, the drive to do something, the drive to have something, and they went in what clearly was an insane, non-safe apparatus, trying to go 13,000 feet below. That is insane. And yet they say some of the most smartest people and some of the richest people in the world were on that thing. Man, that's crazy. But that gives you an idea that we got people in control that are looking down on most of us, telling us how crazy we are, how crazy we act. But that's a perfect example of craziness right there. That really shows you craziness. I can tell you right now, I'm curious now. I don't mean any harm. And we got some good technicians over here. And so I know this can be cut out. Of course, it's also going live, so somebody may well catch it and run with it. But were any black folks on there? No black.
No.
That's what I figured. That's what I figured. Ain't no black guy. You gonna tell him to go 13,000 feet in a matchbox? Ain't no black guy going down 13,000. And I can see this woman now. You gonna do what? You ain't going on there. No, sir. Not leave me with these children. No, you ain't going nowhere. And yet these people did. So again, I'm saying it in a jocular kind of way, but we do too much. I shouldn't say we do. We have allowed ourselves to be manipulated too much. And so we go after things that are clearly self-destructive, self-harmful, self-injurious. And of course, they've damaged their family to the extent they're no longer with their families, and I understand that they were also contributors, positive contributors to society. So to that extent, society has been damaged because they have gone after something. So Eve going after the fruit is a perfect example of covetousness. All right. Now, getting to sort of the meat of what they can y'all see that? That's a little, we probably need to highlight that. Getting to sort of the meat of what we're going to talk about today, and pardon the pun when I say meat, we cite the first chapter of Genesis and God's creation of animals and of life. Because if you notice, it says, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit. Each thing that's created says, after his kind. Now, we want to emphasize that because a great part of the science that's driving this consumerism, this covetousness, and science is backing the advertising. The advertising and the promotions are connected with science. And the technocrats are the ones with the white coats who have been to school and got the degrees and they walk around, and we attribute all-knowing knowledge and wisdom to them because they got the degrees, and we presume that they've done the study and investigation, So they are in the process of mixing life forms. And I believe that we have here, and I believe I've shared this with you before, those of you who've been with us before, but what we have here in these verses in the first chapter of Genesis is God making a distinction between what is going on now and what went on before. Now, notice what I just said. I'm not talking about what goes on in the 6th chapter of Genesis. What I'm saying is when God created the heaven and the earth, and then you get to the 2nd verse and it says the earth was void and without form. I believe that something happened between those two verses, and it had to do just with what happened later on, similar to in Genesis 6, and I believe that it also is happening. It happened, but I believe it's the same thing, and that's why here the Bible emphasizes that God created everything after its kind, in that order. The grass, the herb, the fruit tree, the vegetables, the birds in the air, the fish in the sea, the animals on the land, everything after its kind, because we or somebody keeps messing with the DNA, keeps confusing things and messing things up. And what happens is, one way or another, God's creation gets confused because people keep missing kinds with different kinds, coming up with a whole bunch of mess. And so today, we being victimized by that, we're eating things and drinking things that are made up of all kinds of stuff. And not only so, the medical profession, in endeavoring to help us overcome certain chronic illnesses and certain, what's the term I'm trying to think of? Congenital illnesses, things from birth. The medical profession is racing. You're talking about a space race, an arms race. The medical profession is racing, trying to see who can make the best ear, the best toe, the best arm, the best eye, the best lung. And they don't care how they make it. They don't care if they make it by sticking it up a pig's backside or by sticking it in a cow's ear. They don't care, as long as they can make what they say is a better ear, a better human ear, a better human eye, a better human finger, a better human foot, as though mankind can do better than God. And so, as a result of this drive, this covetousness that it's like a plague, it's like sin, it's in us. David said, I was born in sin and shaped in, and in sin did my mother conceive me. It's a part of us. It's passed down from generation to generation. So the powers that be have created this advertising promotion machine, and they know that this innateness there is in us to just want something that's not ours, something that's not good for us, but we just want it to want it, and they use it against us, and it's driving us. We just seemingly can't stop ourselves. Hunger, obesity, and malnutrition. Hunger, obesity, and malnutrition. One of the things that fascinated me when I got older and understood how we are made, a person could be obese. They say I'm obese. I'm overweight. And I go to the doctor, and the doctor runs those blood tests. He's already said, "Ma'am Tyler, I keep telling you got to do something with that weight. You just got to do something with that weight. You're just too fat. You weigh too much." And then he comes back with the blood, man, at your last blood test, you're malnourished. You're absent this and you're absent that. And so we're living in a society where you have people that are overweight. A large group of our people are overweight, a large segment of our population. Indeed, a large segment of the population of the world. I think they said the world's got 7.5 billion people in it, and 1 in 7 people, that is 1/7 of the world, 1 billion people in the world are overweight, are obese. That's crazy. That means there's something wrong, or no, there's something else I need to add. Yes, a billion people are overweight, but 1.5 billion people are hungry. 1 billion are overweight, but 1.5 are hungry. Now, that's some cockeyed numbers right there. But that's because we're eating wrong. We're eating the wrong thing. What we're eating is not good for us. And let me hasten to say the poor diet not only applies to the physical food we eat, but it applies to the spiritual food we eat as well. We are malnourished. We are hungry spiritually. And again, going back to that covetous spirit, the devil knows that we've been created to crave God. The devil plays on God having put that urge in us to be drawn to him. The devil plays on that, and that has a lot to do with what drives us to eat, to drink, to drug, to do all kinds of whacked out things. When you break it all down, it's pretty much had to do with our desire to get closer to God, to experience nirvana, for lack of a better term, you know. And instead of doing what the Bible tells us to do to get closer to God, the devil gets in our ear and tells us, oh, you can get to God all kinds of ways. You can get to God by eating. You can get to God by drinking. You can get to God by having sex. You can get to God by drugging. You can get to God by flying a plane 2,000 miles an hour. You can get to God by jumping off a mountain. You can get to God by bungee jumping, jump off and let the rubber band pop you back. You can get to God by jumping off a bridge. You know, you can get to God by burning yourself. You can get to God by giving all your money away. You can get to God by having all the men in the world, having all the women. There's so many ways you can get to God. That's just the devil getting in our head because that urge there. And because that urge is there, the devil also yeasts it up a little bit, pumps it up, and has us just coveting, trying to see if we can feel a little better by getting something over here, get something over there, and get something over there. I see he got it. I see I got to get it. That'll make me feel a little better. And when we get it, we don't feel any better. We start really feeling worse. And so we got to have that much more. That's covetousness. That's consumerism. And that plays out in all aspects of our lives, but tonight, right, primarily, we're looking at how it affects our eating habits. And we're saying that a lot of us, like me, are obese, but we also are malnourished because the food we eat does not contain the nutrition that we need. The food we eat does not contain the nutrition that we need. More than 1 in 7 people on earth are hungry. Actually, it says that more than 1 in 7 people on earth are obese, and one and a half of them are hungry. The route to eradicating world hunger is also the way to prevent global epidemics of diabetes and heart disease, and to address the host of environmental and social ills. Now, given everything that I've said, and you all say they can't unmute themselves, right? Okay. Somebody help me out now. Don't have me trying to pull this train on by myself. Now, the route to eradicating world hunger is also the way to prevent global epidemics of diabetes and heart disease, and to address the host of environmental and social ills. Now, so how is eradicating hunger related to diabetes and heart disease and environmental and social ills? Somebody give me some idea. It's not a trick question.
What was your question?
Okay, at least you asked what is the question. Again, I said the route to eradicating world hunger is also the same way to prevent global epidemics of diabetes and heart disease. I said, how is world hunger related to diabetes and heart disease when we're taught that both diabetes and heart disease have nothing to do with hunger, they have to do with obesity?
Could be stress.
I'm sorry?
Stress,
Okay.
worrying about, where you're going to get your next paycheck, where you're going to get your next.
So wait a minute. So what you're saying is hunger, diabetes, and heart disease, all three involve stress. To that extent, yes, you're correct. But that's not what I'm looking at. Somebody else is getting ready to say something.
I was going to say that I don't see a correlation between them. I don't see how hunger and diabetes and heart disease and stuff like that. I don't see how they're saying that they're related, other than the foods that we eat aren't nutritious. Therefore, people are starving, or we have world hunger because they're not satisfying the nutritional needs. And that's why we have the diabetes and heart disease.
That is one way. That is one way. And I'm jumping the gun. I'm trying to see if you see where the author's going. But the writers are also saying that the economic system that I've been talking about, it creates hunger. It feeds off of hunger. It drives hunger. It drives diseases like diabetes and heart disease and various social ills. All of that is a part of the economic system, the consumerism, covetousness economic system that we're part of. It drives it. So to that extent, that's how they're related. That's why they're saying the same route to eradicating one thing will eradicate that. And let's now we're going to put a pin in that. Now let's see if by the end of this, let's see if we have made that connection for you, because you're not expected to see it earlier, but you did respond. So let's see now. Let's see what happens here. Obesity and hunger are 2 points on a continuum of poverty. And obesity and hunger are 2 points on a continuum of poverty. I believe we said enough for you to understand how obesity and hunger are related, because you can be as big as me and still be hungry because the food isn't nutritious, and the food doesn't really satisfy your hunger. Is whatever it's that I'm eating is causing me to blow up, as opposed to causing me to be stronger. And that's what's going on. The food is not nutritious. All right. Now, let's go ahead a little further and see where we are. Diets and disease. There you go with these pictures. These are some good pictures again. There's more diet-related disease like diabetes in U.S. food than ever before. Let me jump ahead here. And let me jump here, not jump ahead, but jump here and say that, and this is just me talking, I haven't held to put anybody in, and I don't have any, I don't have any medical degrees or biology degrees or psychological degrees or anything, but I firmly believe that whatever's being put in the air, in the food, and the water, along with what's being taught in the schools, is driving this transgender stuff. I firmly believe that that's driving. There's something, I just like they can create 3-parent people. They can create, if they can go back and create 3-parent people, and I believe somewhere further down, we're going to discuss how Monsanto has created seed. And check this out. Is that in here? Monsanto is in here. I'm going to mention it. We're going to get to it again. Monsanto has created seed that can grow, come to full manifestation, come to full fruition. And when it's time for it to drop the new seed, it dies and kills the new seed. And you got to go back to Monsanto and buy some more seed. Hello. Now, if they can do that with seed, y'all know what they can do with people. Okay. All right. The obesity can no longer be explained exclusively as a curse of individual affluence. In other words, they said King Louis, I think it was the 16th, his throne was a toilet. He just liked to eat. And so he was just being on the throne, his throne was a toilet. But we know now that obesity is a disease. It's not generally in our society, obesity is not a matter of people eating too much. It's a matter of people eating the wrong food. or they're eating the right food, but because the soil has been so depleted, because GMO seed and all the, along with the insecticides and pesticides and herbicides and all them other sides that have been put in to grow whatever it is, the nutrition has been pulled out of the food. And so the food we eat is just not as healthy as it should be. And the water we drink, again, all the poisons that have gone in the water, as much as God tries to purify the water in the sea and in the ocean and in the creeks and everything, because everywhere you go is pollution, the water we drink is not healthy. So consequently, we just don't get what we normally get from what we eat and drink. And obesity is caused by that more so than by overeating. Obesity can no longer be explained exclusively as a curse of individual influence. There are systemic features that make a difference, like I just shared. It is now possible for people who can't afford enough to eat to be obese. Can I see a show of hands? If they raise their hands, can I see them? How many of you have seen heavy-set homeless people? How many of you have ever been accosted or confronted or approached by a heavy-set beggar? I can't see any hands raised.
Well, I don't know how to raise my hand digitally of the camera on, but yesterday we were in DC, and we have witnessed two homeless gentlemen get into an altercation, and they were obese.
Yeah, that is becoming more and more prevalent because the worst, the homeless people get the bottom of the food chain. And so it drives obesity. And then the more and more of them, and then the children that are born with more and more deficiencies because they're at the bottom of the food chain. Child obesity will double by 2030, and 50% of adults will be obese by 2030. Isn't that something? Child obesity, everything by 2030, everybody, obesity is just going to take over. And so the question is then, I imagine they'll redefine what obese is when 50% of the people are obese. We'll find out that right now, I think if you weigh like 210, 215, you're obese. I imagine by 2030, you have to weigh 315 or 320 before they say, they're always moving the line somewhere. Yes.
So I don't know if this was already mentioned. So I apologize for being late. I was reading this week that they just released that the BMI, metric that's used to classify body types, that is not correct because it's based on white
male,
white body types, and it's
right.
Yeah. So I don't know if that has anything.
That has something to do with it. Hold on, Sister Fowler. That has something to do with it, but that shows you that they're getting ready to bump it up. Yes, it is based on white, but they're going to bump it up. I'll tell you something else too. The psychological chart, the mental health thing that they come up with is primarily based on white guys and what their issues are. And everybody is being held to that white standard as to who's mentally healthy and who's not. I just threw that in as an aside. Ms. Fowler, what are you trying to say?
You're talking about food, and you're talking about how people are obese and not obese, but a person obese may not be as healthy. I mean, not healthy, may not have all the nutrients and so forth. They always say we are what we eat. We are what we absorb. So if the nutrients and the minerals and vitamins that are needed for the body to properly heal and balance off a balanced weight and things of that nature are not there, then it would cause a problem. And because they're doing so much with the food that we eat, altering the way and controlling how seeds, how long they last. If they not replant, but if they can grow again, you have to replant or buy new seeds. All these things will affect, and the body DNA doesn't recognize it. And people who are obese can eat a lot, but they're not eating the things that give them the minerals, the vitamins, and nutrients that the body actually need. And so therefore they're eating more fat or more junk that result into stored fat. And that is a problem that can also cause a person to be a diabetic, and a person who's not getting enough nutrients can also be a diabetic because they're not getting enough nutrients. They don't have enough fat, and they're not producing, but they're not eating enough of the right fat. And so I just want to say that part. That's it.
Now, and thank you for that. The obese thing. Okay. Well, we probably said enough about that. The point, the idea is, and I want to make sure we're sort of staying on point here. I don't want my sidekick is here to say that I've veered off screen or off text. We're talking about within the context of bioengineering. And what we're saying here is that there's a system in place that's by design is endeavoring to change humanity from the way God has designed us to get us to change into humanity 2.0. And a part of that we talked about artificial intelligence last week. Well, we're looking at diet and nutrition this week. And we're saying that our eating habits, our agricultural industry, we're saying that there's a system that's put in place and is being driven by the stock market, by people who are making money off of our illnesses. The pharmaceutical companies are making money off of the pharmaceuticals. The medical industry is making money off of prescribing the pharmaceuticals and off of treating us with all these chronic illnesses that they keep adding to the list every year that flow from the poor diet and other habits that we have. We don't get exercise and don't get air like we used to, like we need to, because the system requires us, where there was one person working a full-time job, then there was one person working a full-time and a half-time job, then it was like two people working a full-time job. Well, now we got two people working two full-time jobs and 2 or 3 part-time jobs. So we have no more time to get the air, to get the sunlight, to pay attention to our diets. We just don't. Then it goes to the stress the Elder John Fowler was talking about, and then that stress added to the poor diet drives the disease, the malnutrition, because it interferes with the uptake of whatever little nutrition we get. And so we consequently are malnourished, we're obese, and we're experiencing hunger, and it's on a larger scale. And in the meantime, they're giving us sugar in everything, along with other chemicals that drive hunger, along with the psychological promotions with the advertising industry that drive the desire to keep consuming and consuming and consuming, because that's how they're making money. They're making money off of us buying stuff that we don't need. We're just consumers. And the thing that gets me.
Well, Pastor Fowler, can I?
Yes, ma'am.
I also want to say, and this is still along the same vein, in that what do I want to say? That, again, talking about how it's driven by money, the stock market, and money in terms of keeping us sick means it's easy for us to be controlled and things like that, independent. But you know how they're always saying, you need to eat more protein, and all these things like that. Well, our bodies are designed to make proteins from the foods that we consume. And so the whole point of us eating more protein is driven by the meat industry. we don't, like from what I'm reading now, we don't need to eat meat to make protein. We have ribosomes in our bodies, inside our cells, and every ribosome purpose is to make proteins. And so, again, going back to what you're saying in regards to the industry, again, it's just another ploy for us to be controlled and to be dependent on them. And I believe that we are naturally supposed to be eating fruits, vegetables, like you said, drinking water, being outside, touching the ground. You mentioned how we are always working. Well, you think about the type of shoes that we're wearing when we're working. We're wearing these rubber soles and things like that doesn't allow us to get the grounding that we need, which actually helps our bodies to collect electrons and helps us in terms of energy.
Well
like
stated.
that.
Well stated. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, and so this is again, when you look at the big picture, it's not just impacting one group of people, it's impacting mankind as a whole.
Everybody. Right. Right.
We'll say that it's impacting some groups more than others.
More than others, but it impacts everybody.
Yes.
It doesn't discriminate.
Right.
And that's one of the things that's so cockeyed and crazy about this whole thing. It reminds me of the attitude of whites towards black, particularly in this society. LBJ said all they had to do was get the average white guy and put him up against a very affluent black guy and tell that white guy how much better he is than that obviously more educated, better, talented black guy. Tell him how much better he is, and the white guy will give you everything in his pocket. Well, what's going on is you got people who are able to make a little bit of money off the stock market across the world. They're able to make a little bit of money off the stock market while the same few people across the world are ruling the world. Their pockets keep getting bigger and heavier, and everybody else keeps getting less. But these few people that are given a few crumbs, and we see them on the TV talk shows, we see them hosting the sports events. I ain't calling no names. I'm not giving no description, but they get a few crumbs, and every now and then they'll make a joke and say, I voted for Donald Trump, and my portfolio went up. Okay, well, they don't understand that when all is said and done, they're breathing the same air, they're eating the same food that we're eating, and they are not, as you have said from time to time, they don't have a place reserved in the bunkers underground. They don't have a place reserved on the International Space Station. They don't have a place in one of them mountains, and they're going to be out here just like we out here, where Jesus said, when the time comes, somebody's going to be on the rooftop, somebody's going to be, we're going to be, as that great philosopher Cat Williams says, we's all niggas now. We're going to be in this thing together. See, until somebody wakes up and smells the coffee and realizes that if my neighbor suffers, I suffer, because we are in this thing together. If I have a denigrating or less than loving attitude toward my neighbor, because what goes around comes around, we all in this thing together, that's going to come back on me. That shade, that hatred, that lack of love, that lack of respect I send out, God's got the world fixed, so sooner or later it's going to come back on me. So it behooves each one of us to understand that God created the world, and there's a system in place that's trying to undermine God's creation. And as Sister Alva said, if we would just go out and get more sun and take our shoes off, you can't take your shoes off in the city because you get your foot cut. But try to go to a beach somewhere and take your shoes off and let your toes run in the sand. Run down in the water and just sit in the water and let the water roll over you from time to time. Just go out and sit in Shenandoah Park, or even go to Great Falls in Virginia and get out the car and go sit on the rocks and just listen to the waterfall. These are things that God has created us so that our bodies innately respond to that, and that brings about healing. And if we would have a better attitude if we would have more love, even though they're driving us to partake in all these poisons, that love that God has created and that he has put everywhere throughout the world, if we would just draw more of that love, the love could undo a lot of the damage that this stuff out here is doing. But we don't love enough. We spend more time hating and trying to get what somebody else got. We're envious, we're jealous. We just got to have it. Why he got it? Why can't I get it? No, I can tell you why you don't have it, because God knows you don't need it. God knows if you had it, you'd probably bust your head open or something. I remember when I was a little boy, I wanted a bike, and my mama said she didn't want me to have the bike. And I'm trying to figure out why mama didn't want me to have the bike. I thought mama didn't like me. But then after I thought about it a little bit more, I realized every day I bust my head open. My mama was afraid I was going to bust my head with the bike. So mama was just looking at me. God's looking out for us. We want a lot of stuff, and God's not giving it to us. But the devil is trying to get us to go past God and get stuff that God's not giving us and telling us God just don't want you to have it because he don't want you to be like him. If you had it, you'd be like God. So we thinking we get this and we be like God. That's just some more of the devil's mess. We're going to keep moving because time is going on. Chemical, seed, and food production, distribution, and grocery store displays. Who is the central character in our story of food? The majority of the world's farmers are suffering. Who knows the name of one of the world's biggest landowners? You hear it every day. They got a lot of chicken.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Oh.
Bill Gates. And who knows one of the biggest world owners of water in the world?
Nestle.
Now, that's interesting. Nestle does have something to do with that, but Gates and them, you get the idea. I'm saying that you've got billionaires who've been going all around the world, buying up all the arable land, driving farmers. They are paying people, just like you hear about how black farmers are treated in this country. All over the world, they're going all over the world, paying people, and everybody wants to get paid, paying people who can't see the bigger picture, paying people to drive farmers off their land. Now the farmers that they're driving off the land are the farmers that are trying to resist Monsanto. They're trying to keep growing food without going to Monsanto. Remember how the Bible talks about Jacob and his children had to go down into Egypt and bow down to Pharaoh to get some food? Well, these people are trying not to have to go and bow down to Pharaoh Monsanto. They keep trying to grow their food without Monsanto. And so Monsanto, particularly in Africa, Monsanto they're paying people. Monsanto and other folks are paying people to drive these people off their farmlands so that they can get more and more control of the arable, the land that can be farmed. And they're also going around the world buying up more and more of the good, I forget what you call it. It's a term for good water. They're buying up the good water. Some are selling off their lands to become laborers, meaning that you have a large proportion of the world's farmers who are now sharecropping on their own farms. Some migrate to, yes.
I was going to say that not only that, there's certain rules now. If you, like, for example, you own your own land, like you want to put a garden in your backyard, they're trying to stop people from putting gardens in their own backyards, growing their own crops.
Yes.
Not even I'm talking about the legal crops. I'm talking about like regular crops, such as like herbs and and things like that. They don't even want you to do that.
They already have some of those laws in place in the United States. Just like they say you can't take a bottle of water to a person in line to vote, they're saying that you can't put a shed somewhere and catch rainwater and purify it and use it. They've actually put laws in place in the United States, and you're right. These are the kind of laws that are being implemented all over the world so that people will stop growing their own food and have to go to somebody else to get seed, and have to go to somebody else to get food. They're getting patents on all kinds of life forms. Very well stated. Yes. And some of these farmers, go to cities and overseas. In other words, they leave all farming and somebody comes in and gets the farm. And then some of them, unfortunately, resort to suicide. That's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. What does a farmer plant? Most farmers' choice of crop is tightly related to the kinds of land they own, the climate, the access to markets, credit, and a range of visible and invisible ingredients in the production of food. They have to grow the crops that the market demands. Now, that's coming back to consumerism. I didn't really pay attention until recently how much I'm talking about myself, because I like to eat watermelon year round. But watermelon is not supposed to be growing year round. I like to eat strawberries year round. Strawberries not supposed, and Lord knows I love pineapple. So we are causing a lot of these problems. These farmers are being made in the United States. That's why, again, going back to what's going on in the United States, it's affecting white farmers just like, but the white farmers can't see it. And so they still ganging up on the black farmers, think the black farmers are the problem. No, the black farmers not the problem, because just after you get rid of the black farmers, they're going to get rid of you. The point being that the farmers are forced to grow crops that are not necessarily the best crop to be grown on the land at that time, or even at all on that particular land. But because that's what the market wants, they're forced to do it. And because the United States and these big countries have gone in and sucked these people in and had them get all these loans from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund and all that kind of stuff, they make them grow crops that we want over here. And they make us want over here what brings them money from over there. Are you feeling what I'm saying? We all, as Cat Williams saying, we's all niggas now. We all caught up in this thing. And we're all on this merry-go-round that's being driven by big money. It has nothing to do with nutrition. And our wants don't really have anything to do with what we want. Our wants have to do with what the stock market and the commodities market can make. They're driving everything that's going on.
Can I also,
yes, ma'am.
I was going to say that, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I believe it's fairly accurate that the crop that is used the most worldwide, I believe, is corn, and they use corn not just for human consumption, but they feed it to livestock. And we're finding, or they know that because they've known this for years, I should say, that corn serves no nutritional value to humans or livestock. And in actuality, it causes acidosis, which makes us sick and things like that. And also makes the animals that eat the corn sick and cause them to have cancer and other types of diseases and things like that. But yet they use corn for so many things, not just for food, but we use it for energy purposes. I'm pretty sure you guys might have seen flex fuel like advertised on people's cars and things like that. We use it for alcohol, a lot of different things. And it's very versatile, but in terms of nutritional value for living organisms, it serves no nutritional value whatsoever.
Ow! Stop! Oh, I was gonna go eat me some corn on the cob. Oh. I was gonna get me some Snapple too. Oh, the high fructose corn syrup. Oh. But yeah, 100% correct. Yeah, and I tell you something else that has no nutritional value. That's even worse than corn. It begins with an S.
Soy.
What'd you say?
Soy.
Sugar.
Oh, yeah.
Sugar. Man was not meant to eat sugar. So you add corn and sugar, you're pretty much throwing everything together. And not only so, talking about the corn, they feed.
Can I want to clarify that they're talking about a specific or types of sugar. Sugar is necessary.
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about that cane sugar. I'm talking about cane sugar.
Glucose is the sugar that our body needs.
No.
Purposes. Hold on. I know. I got you. I want to fit.
Okay.
Glucose is the type of sugar that our body needs for nutritional value, and we get it from the fruits and vegetables that we eat, and of course by us eating legumes and other things like that. So that is the type of sugar that our body actually can break down and use, and that's good for us. But like you're saying, sucrose and high fructose and things like that, those type of sugars serve no nutritional value for us. So I just want to make that statement.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was a broad statement to say sugar. Appreciate you clarifying that. Now, sides are tied to GMO foods, I believe. Yes, GMO has been banned in 83% of the 30 nations. Getting late. 83% of the 30 nations in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, until the UK broke ranks in 2013 by allowing 3-parent babies. Now we're getting into GMO proper. Synthetic biology is the overarching science that engineers cells with novel biological functions. Okay? Big pharma corporate families are now gobbling up biotech and genomics corporations so as to control the future of genetically modified seed, germplasm, pesticide with Bacillus thuringiensis, genes, corn, which is maize, soybeans, wheat, rice, tobacco, cotton, these staple products. In other words, humanity's food staples, they are buying up all these corporations all over the world. They're trying to, and all these food supplies, the reason why we're connecting it with the herbicides, the pesticides, and everything is because all those chemicals are going into the planting of these foods, and these foods are being given to animals. And the animals are being given antibiotics and a whole bunch of chemicals. And so then we in turn are eating the animals that are receiving all of these chemicals, and we're eating the plants that are receiving all of these chemicals, and us and the animals are drinking all this water that's being poisoned and by all these chemicals. And so it's just one big sludge soup. Apomictic maize creates reproducible plant clones that speed up sterile hybrid seed production. That's what we talked about earlier. The U.S. was the first nation to release genetically modified engineered crops and remains the top producer. And the FDA, going back to some Brother Andrew Fowler said at the outset, he said something about the FDA does not require GMO labeling on food. The United States, the top producer, the United States, the largest consumer in the world, and we are the largest consumer of GMO products. Many of these other developed worlds developed countries in the world don't even let them sell their people GMO foods, but we'd let them sell it, and we're gobbling it up. Sides are tied to GMO foods. Only 26 nations currently allow GM foods to be commercially available or grown by precision farming. Precision farming is site-specific management under agrochemical corporations whose access to supercomputers, satellites, nanosensors, that's smart dust, geospatial intelligence, etc., is dedicated to the ceaseless ambient intelligence of smart fields growing GMO foods for smart cities filled with brain control interface cyborgs plugged into the space fence lockdown. That's a whole lot there. What they're saying is that, as I said earlier, all the earth, all mankind is being subjected to a system of full spectrum dominance, from the space fence and satellites across the face of the earth, the air being saturated with those chemicals from the chemtrails, the water, the dirt, the land, the animals, to below the surface. Full spectrum dominance. They are trying to change us from how God made us into something else. And what they're talking about when they talk about the cities and stuff like that, they're saying that when you look at the Wi-Fi, the 5G, 5G came on board, and that's when we got COVID. When they started doing radar and stuff in World War I, That's when the Spanish flu kicked in. They don't talk about that. All that's tied to electricity. The point that they're trying to get across here is that we're going to keep getting sicker and sicker and sicker as long as we keep buying all these apparatuses. We get the 5G, and then we got to get the 6G. I'm guilty because I like to be able to say, Google, do this, and Siri, do that. Well, that's artificial intelligence, but all that takes electricity. We got all this electricity flowing around, messing with the electricity in the body, and all that messes, with and it affects our ability to uptake our food. And so what they're saying is all this stuff is tied full spectrum dominance. They're just trying to just smash us, and they want us to be like the Borg in Star Trek. We are Borg. We are Borg. We are Borg. That's what they want. We want us to just keep eating their food and drinking their water. And our little boys and little girls, more and more, Billy's going to say, my name is Susie. And Mary's going to say, my name is Johnny. That's what they want. They want nothing but confusion because they want to sell body parts. And you got people that see this, that are part of this, but they think it's not going to happen to them, just like those rich guys got in that Cracker Jack box and went down 13,000 feet thinking that somehow God had made them different from everybody else. Okay, sides are tied to GMO foods, Terminator technology, the ability to make a lot of toxin that will kill cells and to confine that toxin to seeds. Again, talking about the way stuff is designed. Now, if they can make seed like this, if they can make insects like this, come on, they're messing with human cells the same way. Transfer methods of getting genes into cells via gene therapy have been similar for humans, animals, and plants. Genetically modified fruits, vegetables, and grains are now being genetically modified to produce edible vaccinations. Hello, Bill Gates. They're saying that they're putting vaccines in food. Keep on going. Washington human body fertilizer. Washington State is the first state to compost dead human bodies as crop. Now, you understand what they're saying? They're saying that those piles right there contain human body parts that people are going to spray, put around on their flower bed, put in their herb garden, put in their vegetable garden, their fruit garden. They're going to put it on their farm, and those human remains will serve as the manure and the compost that's going to help grow the food that we're going to eat. That's going to help feed the cows and the pigs. Well, those of us who eat pigs, I like being a good rib every now. They're going to feed that. So it's cannibalism. They say that McDonald's was selling baby fetuses, was buying baby fetuses to put in the McDonald's hamburger. So, it's going full circle. Okay. Washington Bill 5001128 legalizes liquid cremation, wherein alkaline hydrolysis turns the human body into organic sludge, gray goop. How will human body fertilizer qualitatively affect the food grown in fields and gardens? I just asked that question. You can use your common sense. It doesn't take rocket science. Even a caveman like me can understand it. Human body fertilizer is the FDA Center for Biological Evaluation and Research, which regulates vaccines, blood and blood products, human tissue and tissue products for transplantation, cell therapy, and gene therapy, engaged in public-private partnership with corporations like Bite Labs, natural organic reduction facilities, and funeral homes like Recompost. Actual human remains composting is called terramation. We're going to end right there, and we can pick it up next week. This has been a very exciting presentation. I got some participation out of you all. I appreciate that. You seem like you finally have gotten into the groove. God bless you. Thank you. And my sidekick to my right here has told me, don't try to give it to you all at one time. So we're going to come back next week, and we'll pick up where we left off this week. I hope you understand what's being said here. This is just not an exercise in futility. We were trying to get a message across, picking up where we left off with artificial intelligence. There's a system in place that is trying to use as many aspects of our lifestyle, as many aspects of our society, as many aspects of our culture as they can to change who we are from the way God designed us to where they think we need to be. If it means designer babies, they're going to do it. If it means getting an artificial eye, or artificial hip, or artificial lip, whatever it is, whatever they can do to get us away from the way God had it. Because remember, God said that the seed of the woman would bruise the head of the seed of the serpent. The devil is still on a mission. He's still on a mission. He's trying to fix it. So even though the seed of the woman has already come and hit him in the head, he's trying to do everything he can to change us, so when Jesus comes back, Jesus won't recognize us. And he's figuring that we're going to be in such bad shape that when Jesus comes back, Jesus is going to say, hey, Daddy, I don't think we want to let them up here. Have you looked down there? I don't think you want them to be here. I don't think you want to let them in heaven. I think we're going to have to go back to the drawing board on this thing one more time. That's what the devil figures. But God knows all, and God sees all, and God got something for the devil. Amen. God bless each and every one of you. I've had a good time this evening. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Anyone have anything they want to add? Any question they want to ask, or any point they want to make? Take it by your silence. All hearts and minds are clear. I want to thank everyone again, our production crew here, consisting of Brother Herman Hall, Brother Alexander Smith, and Sister Lene Brown. God bless Sister Brown for putting together these slides. I won't tell you how much time she had to put together because that'll be too much information, but she does a yeoman's job in putting together the slides. She was sticking out her hand saying she wants some more money. No, she didn't. I'm just playing. She didn't do that. She didn't do that. Well, God bless each and one, everyone. Let's be the word of prayer. Eternal Heavenly Father, we thank thee for this opportunity. We thank thee for these thy servants who pressed their way here. We pray, Lord God, that with this discussion, with this presentation, that there's been something said that has pricked our curiosity, that has pricked our desire to go back and read what you're saying about covetousness and about things being created in their kind, according to their kind, and how it impacts our lives, because our desire is to live and be what you would have us to be. Bless us, give us traveling blessing, bless our home, bless our families, bless Capital View for Christ's sake. Now him was able to keep you from falling and to present you falling before his presence with exceeding great joy. To the only wise God, our Savior, be glory and majesty, dominion, and power, now and forever. Amen. See y'all on Sunday morning.